never sleep, not worried about the way that things might have been. Big wheels that keep on turning, proud Mary keep on burning. Rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. I cleaned a lot of plates in Memphis, pumped a lot of paint down in New Orleans, but I never saw the good side of the city till I hitched a ride on the riverboat queen. Big wheels they keep on turning, proud Mary keep on burning. Rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Rolling, I keep rolling, rolling on the river. We go do 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 do. If you come down to the river, bet you're gonna find some people who live. You don't have to worry, cause you got no money. People on the river, they are happy to give. Big wheels that keep on turning, proud Mary keep on burning. Rolling, rolling, I keep rolling on the river. Rolling, rolling, rolling on the river. Oh, do, 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 do.
Hi, welcome to the American Center of Moscow's 50 States series. My name's John Spurney. I'm going to be talking to you today about my home state, the great state of California. I'm going to start out with a lot of facts and statistics about California's economy and history, and then talk about sort of my personal experiences living here. I think of all the 50 states, California might be the one that needs the least introduction to people who live outside of America. And I think California looms large in the rest of the world's conception of life in the United States, primarily because Hollywood is in California. California is where traditionally American movies and television shows have been made, although that is sadly changing. And, you know, movies and television shows are the predominant way that foreigners, I think, learn about life in America. And the people that make those movies and shows live in California. And for a good part of history, those movies and shows were made in California. So it's only natural that when people think of life in the US, they have impressions that have been filtered through a California-shaped lens. But if you've been watching the previous presentations in this series, and I hope you have, you know already that the 50 states of America are incredibly diverse. And California itself is so large and diverse that its Hollywood portrayal, as we'll see, doesn't really do justice to the state as a whole. So let's just talk about some basic facts. California is located on the west coast of the United States, bordering the Pacific Ocean. That's why we have such great beaches here. California borders Oregon to the north, Nevada and Arizona to the east, and our southern border is with Mexico. We border a foreign country. So a very important fact about California is that it is huge. California is the largest state in the United States by population. 40 million people live just in California alone. And it's the third largest state in the United States by area. Only Texas and Alaska are bigger, but they don't have as many people, even though they're bigger in area. And this is a sort of key fact about California. California has the largest state economy in the US, with a gross domestic product of over 4 trillion, that's trillion with a T, dollars. In fact, if California, just the state of California, were a country unto itself, it would have the 4th largest economy in the world. Only the United States, China, and Germany have economies larger than the state of California. And California itself provides 1/7 of the US economy. So you can see that it's a state that wields an incredible amount of economic power within the United States and the world. So how did California become so wealthy? Part of the state's success, I think, is simply due to its enormous size, because within the enormity of California are an incredible amount of natural resources. California has over 24 million acres of agricultural land. About 40% of the state's total area is used for farming, primarily grapes, dairy, and almonds. In fact, and I learned this when I moved here, and this amazes me, 80% of all the almonds in the world come from California. So if you enjoyed an almond today, you're welcome. And so in addition to that, California has 30 million acres of forests, about 30% of the state's total area. And those are, of course, used for timber and wood products. And here's something about California I don't think most people, even in America, know. California is the 7th largest producer of oil in the United States and produces about 1/4 of the oil we use here in America. And in Los Angeles, which is where I live, oil was one of the main sources of income for the city of Los Angeles before the advent of Hollywood. So in the sort of late 19th, early 20th century, the center of the Los Angeles economy was really oil. And in fact, if you drive around LA today, there are still working oil rigs all over the city of Los Angeles, especially if you drive out by the airport, you see them all the time. And I mean, if you look at this picture, this is obviously a freeway in Los Angeles, and you can see between the middle palm tree and the palm tree on the right, there is a working oil rig that, you know, people are just driving by. And that is actually a pretty common sight in Los Angeles, although the city has now barred construction of any new oil rigs because, you know, oil rigs are not healthy places to be around. And then, of course, in addition to all these natural resources, I would be remiss if I didn't mention California's more modern sources of wealth, film and TV production in Hollywood, and of course, the tech industry in Silicon Valley in Northern California. I don't know, I think a lot of people don't know this, but Apple, Google, Facebook, Instagram, Tesla, and NVIDIA are all headquartered in California. All those companies are here. So you can imagine the amount of revenue generated here just by that one industry. And we'll talk about that in depth a little more. So California is rich and powerful. In fact, as we've seen, the richest state in the United States. So how did this powerhouse come to be? I want to talk a little bit about California's history. And California, I think, has an incredibly interesting history because in its history, California has been the territory of 3 separate countries. Unlike the original 13 states, which run along America's Atlantic coast on the other side of the country, which before the Revolutionary War were colonies of Great Britain. The area that is now California was originally colonized by Spain. And it was Spanish explorers who gave the region the name California. California was the name of a fictional island in a 16th century book that was rich in gold and pearls. So when Spanish explorers came here and saw just the abundance of wealth, natural wealth that they found here, they named it after this fictional island because of the natural wealth. And so in the 18th century, Spain established 21 missions across California's Pacific coast. So these missions were religious establishments meant to help spread Catholicism amongst the native peoples who lived in what is now California. And many of these 18th century Spanish mission buildings still exist across the state. When you drive around California, you see them all the time, and they're kind of like this. They're these beautiful, we call the architecture mission style architecture, and all over California, people live in homes that are mission style homes. Like the architecture mimics these missions from the 18th century. And a lot of these Spanish missions developed into what are now the modern day cities along California's Pacific coast. So San Francisco, Santa Barbara, and San Diego, this is just three of them, but they were all originally Spanish missions, hence the religious Spanish names. And they are now some of the biggest cities in California. And they only developed where they developed because Spain put a mission there. So this is something that I think the vast majority of Americans don't know. I didn't know it till I moved here. And I think Russian people will find this incredibly interesting. But at the same time that Spain was developing these missions, Russia established a settlement in what is now California. Part of what is now California was once Russian territory. It's because the colonies that Russia had in Alaska had trouble procuring enough food for the colonists there because of the harsh climate of Alaska. So they sent an expedition south to warmer climes to Northern California near what is San Francisco, what is now San Francisco, because they wanted to create an agricultural base that could supply crops to the Russian settlements in Alaska. And they also wanted to establish trade with the missions, again, to get goods that they could send to the Russian colonies in Alaska. And the resulting community, which was established in 1812, was named Fort Ross. And it existed as a Russian settlement here in California until 1841. So part of California was once Russian. And in fact, Fort Ross, as you can see from this picture, Fort Ross is still there. And it is now a U.S. national park that celebrates Russian culture and history. So around the same time that was happening, in 1821, the War of Mexican Independence gave Mexico independence from Spain, and so California became part of Mexico. So that's the second country. And at this time, simultaneously, settlers from the east part of America are slowly moving west, and they begin to arrive in California. And they kind of chafed under this Mexican rule. And so in 1846, a group of these American settlers rebelled against the Mexican government. And they declared the creation of the California Republic. They wanted to form their own little country within what was then Mexico. And so this rebellion was known as the Bear Flag Revolt. This is the flag that they used when they were rebelling. And so that flag, which was created for this new republic, is still the state flag of California today. But the California Republic only lasted a couple months because in 1846, all of California became U.S. territory as a result of the Mexican-American War. So that's the third country. So California has been part of Spain, it's been part of Mexico, and obviously now it's part of the U.S. And a small part of it was part of Russia, which is pretty incredible, I think. Just after America gained control of California, this kind of seismic event happened in California history, and that is that gold was discovered in California. Gold was discovered in a place called Sutter's Mill, which is in Northern California, around the area San Francisco is in. And this discovery of gold would change California forever. And so this period is now known as the California Gold Rush. And it had an incredible effect on the demographics and finances of California. It's kind of the beginning of California becoming the big money powerhouse that it is now. So when the news of the discovery of gold spread to the eastern United States, it brought about 300,000 people to California, all hoping to find some of this gold for themselves. So this picture is of prospectors. You know, people literally would just show up with a pickaxe and a shovel and just, you know, go up into the mountains and start trying to find gold. These fortune seekers, like the guys in this picture, were known as 49ers because 1849 was the year gold was discovered. And that is why to this day, one of the professional American football teams in California is the San Francisco 49ers. I think a lot of people who even live in America don't know why they're called the 49ers, but that is why this pro football team is named after the people who came to California trying to find gold in the 19th century. So this sudden influx of gold into the economy obviously had an incredibly positive effect. And the rise in population, all these people coming to California to try and find gold, eventually led to California officially becoming a state of the United States in 1850. That is when we became a state. So as a result of the gold rush, San Francisco became the largest city on the West Coast. But in the sort of next very important moment in California history, in 1906, a devastating earthquake, that's the seal, sorry, that's the seal when we became a state, that became the state seal of California. In 1906, a really devastating earthquake destroyed most of San Francisco. It destroyed literally 3/4 of the city. And a lot of the damage was due not to the earthquake itself, but the earthquake caused a lot of fires and also broke the water mains that would have given people the ability to put the fires out. So 3/4 of the city was destroyed in a day or 3 days. The city, of course, because of the gold rush, was incredibly wealthy. And thanks to this wealth, San Francisco was quickly rebuilt. And it's now really one of the most beautiful cities in America. If you ever have a chance to visit America, San Francisco should be on your agenda. It's just an incredibly beautiful city. And of course, now San Francisco is the epicenter of the tech industry. Another big change happened in 1912, and that is when the movie business began in Los Angeles. And this is Hollywood in 1912. And this is, I think this might confuse people because the sign, the famous Hollywood sign here says Hollywood Land, But that is what the sign said when it was made. And it was an advertisement for real estate development of that name in Hollywood. And the sign was not shortened to read just Hollywood until 1949. So any picture you see of Los Angeles from the 1920s or 1930s, the sign actually says Hollywood Land. And it was only shortened much later. So let's talk about the movie industry moving here, because it had obviously an incredible effect on California generally and Los Angeles in particular. Before 1912, which is when the business moved here, New York City was the center of the movie business, and most movies were actually shot, believe it or not, in Fort Lee, New Jersey, which is a little town across the Hudson River from Manhattan. And so the reason they moved to LA was because most movies were shot on equipment invented by Thomas Edison, who was an incredibly famous inventor in America in the 19th century. And Edison insisted that all filmmakers pay him a royalty for using his equipment. So it was very expensive to shoot movies on the East Coast because you had to pay a royalty to Edison for every picture he made. So some sneaky filmmakers decided to move to the West Coast where they could shoot movies without, they could use Edison's equipment, but Edison wouldn't know that they were doing it. And therefore they would save some money. And so they came to Los Angeles, and when they arrived in Los Angeles, they found that it was much easier to shoot movies here because this is a place where it's sunny almost all the time. And in the 1920s, the silent era, movies were shot only using natural light. So they had to have a lot of sun to be able to actually photograph the movies. And in addition to that, in California, filmmakers could have easy access to beaches, mountains, forests, deserts. There are all these ecosystems in the state that could act as different settings for different stories. And I want to talk about the advent of Hollywood here, of the movie industry in Hollywood, because it has a really specific tie, like Fort Ross, to Russia. In the golden age of Hollywood, sort of from the invention of sound in 1928 until the 1950s, 1960s, there were 5 major studios in Hollywood. Warner Brothers, MGM, 20th Century Fox, Paramount, and RKO. 4 of these studios still exist, but all 5 of them were founded by Jewish men who were born within a 500-mile radius of each other in Eastern Europe, mostly in the Russian Empire. The Warner Brothers, who founded the studio named after them, were originally from the Russian Empire in what is now Poland. 2 of the founders of MGM immigrated to America from the Russian Empire, Louis B. Mayer and Samuel Goldwyn. Fox was founded by William Fox, who was from Hungary. Paramount was founded by Adolf Zucker, who was also from Hungary. And RKO was created by a merger overseen by David Sarnoff, who was born in the Russian Empire in what is now Belarus. So Russians were an incredibly important part of the eventual success and cultural dominance of Hollywood. And of course, the success of Hollywood is very much responsible for the success of California as a state. And these Russian immigrants created the studio system where the studios adopted the industrial practices of American factories to produce, in the golden age, over 600 movies a year. Like if you lived in the 30s and 40s, there would be 10 new movies every week. And you have to remember, this is before television. So, movies were the only form of visual entertainment. So there were a lot more of them. And these studio bosses used vertical integration to ensure they profited from every aspect of the film, from production to exhibition. During the classic Hollywood era, the studios also owned the theaters where their movies were exhibited. So you could only see, for example, a movie made by Paramount Pictures in a theater owned by Paramount. And this actually became illegal in 1947, which was one of the reasons that this studio system ultimately collapsed. So, but ultimately, Hollywood brought incredible wealth to California. In fact, the movie and TV industry in Hollywood today contributes about $500 billion to the US economy every year. And it's a major part, as we said before, of why California is the wealthiest US state. And also, as I mentioned earlier, Hollywood is incredibly responsible for creating the international image of life in America. So when many foreigners think of life in the US generally, they tend to think of life in California specifically, whether they're aware of that or not. And then, of course, the next big industry historically to find success in California was America's aerospace industry. Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, and SpaceX, Elon Musk's company, are all located in Southern California. And if you don't know, you probably know Boeing. I mean, Boeing makes the vast majority of passenger airplanes in the world. And the other, Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman, are huge military contractors who make aircraft for the military. And they're all located here in Southern California. And in addition to that, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which is in Los Angeles, in La Cañada, they construct and operate most of the spacecraft used by NASA, America's space program. And so aerospace generates $100 billion to the California economy every year. I mean, it's just incredible sums of money that are being generated by these companies. But as huge a number as that is, aerospace was ultimately overtaken by a modern industry that now provides the bulk of California's GDP today. And that is one I mentioned earlier, and the one that I think has the greatest effect on all of our daily lives. And that is, of course, tech. So the center of the world's tech industry, not California's, but really the center of the world's tech industry, which of course is known as Silicon Valley, is located in Northern California, just south of San Francisco. So if you look at these maps, the map on the left shows you where Silicon Valley is in the grand scheme of California, and the map on the right is a close-up view of how Silicon Valley is spread out below San Francisco. You can see that peninsula jutting into the bay with the red dot. That's San Francisco, and the little space between San Francisco and the area above it, which is Marin County, that is where the Golden Gate Bridge is. The Golden Gate Bridge crosses that and connects those two peninsulas. Today, well, let me just say this, the very foundations of our modern life, the integrated circuit, the microprocessor, the personal computer, social media, all of those things were first developed in, look at this map, this tiny little region in Northern California. And today in California, the tech industry employs 1.5 million people and generates $500 billion in revenue every year. And as a result of the all of the successes in this industry, Silicon Valley has the third largest, that little area that you just saw on the map, has the third largest per capita GDP in the world, behind only Zurich and Oslo, which is pretty impressive. So I want to apologize at this point, for bombarding you with so many economic statistics when I'm sure you'd prefer to hear about hamburgers and surfboards. But I just want to try and express how incredibly large and productive California is as a place. I lived in, before I lived here, I lived in New York City for over 30 years, and New York City is certainly large and certainly productive. But moving out here and learning about the sheer enormity of what Californians produce and create every day constantly amazes me. And I live here, you know. So what is it like to actually live in California? So first off, let me say, as you know by now, California is enormous. It is an enormous and incredibly diverse state that encompasses a huge variety of disparate lifestyles and landscapes. Within just the state of California, there are sunny beaches, snow-capped mountains, deserts, forests of giant redwoods. You can see them all in these pictures. And one of the greatest things about living where I live in Los Angeles is that you're basically within driving distance of all of them. It's pretty incredible, you know, to get here from New York. I had to drive through the Mojave Desert. And then, you know, when I arrived in Los Angeles, it was surrounded by the snow-capped San Gabriel Mountains. And the next day I drove to the beach, you know, and all these places are within distance of each other, which is kind of an incredible thing about living here. But I just want to stress that Los Angeles is not necessarily representative of California as a whole, the same way that New York City is not representative of the whole of New York State. So my impressions of living in California are really about living in Southern California generally, and Los Angeles in particular. And by the way, if you look at this picture, I think most people from outside the United States do not know that Los Angeles is surrounded by mountains. I didn't until I moved here, but it is. And as you can see in this picture, they're really beautiful, especially in the winter when they're covered in snow, like in this picture. And you know, you can drive from the beaches to the mountains in about an hour. And one of the incredible things is, you know, you live in Los Angeles and it'll be 30 degrees, but you're looking at snow-covered mountains. It's pretty amazing. So what do I love about living in Los Angeles? Well, the primary thing is what I just talked about, and it seems banal, but it's really true: the weather. Of course, everyone knows that LA is famous for its weather. It's sunny here about 300 days a year, which, as we saw earlier, is one of the reasons the film industry moved here in the first place in the 1920s. And the average yearly temperature here is 23 degrees Celsius. Technically, Los Angeles has what is literally called by scientists a Mediterranean climate. So the climate here is very similar to the climate of Spain or Italy or Greece. If you've been to any of those places, it's sunny and dry with very little rain and very low humidity. I mean, it really is kind of perfect. You know, I miss when I used to live on the East Coast of the United States. I miss rain. It doesn't rain here very often, and when it does, it's not like the sort of powerful rainstorms that you get on the East Coast. Or I grew up in the state of Louisiana in New Orleans, and as Louisiana is the state we'll be talking about next week, Louisiana gets these incredible deluge, you know, rainstorms, and that does not happen here. And I do miss that. But other than that, the weather here is really kind of perfect. And when I moved to LA from New York, of course, I expected the weather to be nice. But what I didn't expect was the incredibly positive effect that the weather here has on my mood and my mental health. And it's not just the the weather, LA also has, and Southern California in general, just has this incredibly beautiful flora, plants and trees. LA is a big city. It's the second largest in the United States after New York. But unlike New York, which is dirty, a big, dirty urban city, everywhere you go here in Los Angeles, there are beautiful trees and flowers, grass, palm trees. The climate is just kind of perfect, obviously, for these things to grow. And you see them everywhere. The city has done a really good job of sort of creating itself around all this beautiful nature. And there's also this, I don't know the actual percentage, but it's more than 20. It's like 27% of the plants in the state of California only exist in the state of California. So that there are all these kind of incredibly strange and beautiful flowers and plants that you see here that you will not see anywhere else in the world. And I think my particular favorites are the jacaranda trees, which have these, as you can see, beautiful purple leaves. They only bloom once a year for about a month. And it's right about now, like jacaranda season will start in a few weeks. In fact, I was walking yesterday and I just saw a couple of these purple leaves on the sidewalk underneath a tree that hadn't fully bloomed yet. So they're coming out. And I mean, as you can see, they're just incredibly beautiful. And for this 1 month, you drive around LA and you just see these purple trees everywhere. And it's just really beautiful. I think it's probably analogous to, if you know about the cherry trees, the cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C. It's kind of a similar thing. Those are pink and they only bloom for a short amount of time. And they're a harbinger of spring. And jacaranda trees in Los Angeles are analogous to that. So, for me personally, when I go outside and it's a beautiful day and I'm surrounded by beautiful flowers and palm trees, it just makes me feel better. Even if I'm just going outside to drive to the grocery store. And so that leads me, of course, to driving. LA, as I'm sure you know, is a city that revolves around driving. It's a city that was specifically designed for the automobile. When I lived in New York City, in New York, very few people own cars, and a lot of adults in New York City don't even know how to drive. And when I lived in New York, I owned a car, but I only used my car to leave New York. I would never travel within New York in my car, and it just sat in a garage most of the time. But in LA, you have to drive. I mean, the city is so big to make your way around on a daily basis. You have to be really in your car constantly. This picture, by the way, LA has this incredible freeway system. And this photo is of the 405, which is the biggest freeway, or the busiest freeway in the United States. It's just constant. It's like 8 lanes on either side, and it's just always packed with cars. And in this photo, I love this photo because if you look up on the hill on the left-hand side, that sort of large building lit up on the top of the hill, that is the Getty Museum, which is one of the best art museums in the United States, really. And John Paul Getty, for whom the museum is named, he was kind of like the Elon Musk of the 1970s. He was an oil man who, in the 1970s, was the wealthiest man in the world. And so he collected a lot of beautiful art. And when he died, he left it all to the city of Los Angeles. So there are actually 2 Getty museums. Like, he had so much stuff. There are 2 buildings holding it all. And so that is the Getty Museum, which is really great. It's kind of analogous to the Met in New York. It's a really great museum. So just to put things into perspective, where it comes to, the size of Los Angeles and why you have to drive. New York County, which is Manhattan, has an area of 24 square miles. LA County has an area of almost 5,000 square miles. It's huge. You know, just like California itself, Los Angeles is just huge. And so because of the sheer size of the city, it really usually takes like a half an hour to get anywhere. So if you don't like driving, don't move here because you really cannot exist here without driving long distances. And of course, LA is famous for its bad traffic. But for me personally, because I work at home, I don't experience that as often as people who have to commute every day during rush hour. And also, for me, driving around LA is pretty much a pleasure because this is my car. So, you know, having a convertible in LA, you know, just driving around LA in a convertible is pretty much for me the perfect situation. You know, because of the weather, I only have to put the top up literally maybe 3 or 4 times a year at the most. And it's fast. You know, if you're going to spend time in your car, I feel like you should have a fun car. And having a car here means I can avail myself, as everybody does here, of LA has an incredible bunch of drive-through restaurants. That's a huge thing here. There's drive-through everything. You know, you don't have to get out of your car. There are drive-through dry cleaners. There are drive-through liquor stores. You know, almost every drugstores have drive-through lanes. Like almost every business here you can visit without leaving your car. The entire city is designed for cars. And because of that, a lot of restaurants are designed so that you can get your food without leaving your car. This is a donut restaurant in LA where you actually drive through a building shaped like a donut. And you see that all the time. It's called programmatic architecture. So programmatic architecture is when a building is shaped like something else to serve as an advertisement for whatever the building is selling. There are examples of this all over Los Angeles like this. This is a hot dog stand called Tail of the Pup, which obviously is shaped like a hot dog. You see buildings like this all over LA, and it's something I love about LA. And another sort of great LA architecture tradition is called Googie. And Googie buildings are mid-20th century buildings that sort of embody the futuristic optimism of America, you know, during the space age of the 1950s and the 1960s. And you still see this style most often in LA in coffee shops or diners. So in this thing, the bottom two pictures, Picks and Pans, those are both coffee shops. And incredibly, the building in the upper left-hand corner, that is a gas station in Beverly Hills. It's a 76 gas station, and every time I drive by it, it's got to be the most beautiful gas station in the world. And it's called Googie because it was first popularized by a chain of coffee shops like the two you see in these pictures that was all over LA. And Googie coffee shops were all built in this style. So the name of that coffee shop chain is now used for any of this architecture. And these buildings still exist all over LA, and they are really one of the things I love the most about the architecture here. And so if we're talking about driving around LA to these drive-through places, we should be talking about the food, because the food here is really good. LA has an incredible food culture, and Asian food like Thai and Japanese is incredibly good here. You know, we're on the Pacific coast, so we have a lot of people who live in Los Angeles who came from countries in Asia on the other side of the Pacific. So the Japanese food is incredibly good. The ramen, Japanese noodles, that is a huge thing here in Los Angeles. There are ramen houses all over the city, and that's delicious. The Thai food is delicious. And California is really the birthplace of American fast food. LA is famous for its burger culture. You can get incredibly good hamburgers here. It's a big deal. And in terms of fast food, McDonald's, Taco Bell, Baskin-Robbins, Panda Express, IHOP, Cheesecake Factory, all started in California. California is really the epicenter, like it or not, of the American fast food culture. This picture is of the very first McDonald's, literally the original one, and it still exists. It's just outside of LA, and you can see that what is now its logo, those famous golden arches, were originally, if you look at this building, they were part of the Googie architecture style. And the original McDonald's all had this kind of googie thing with those two arches, which they now just use as part of their sign. But they were originally a fundamental part of the architecture of the restaurants themselves. But California's most famous fast food chain is definitely In-N-Out. In-N-Out started in LA in the 40s. And for a really long time, I mean, until really recently, like the last 10 years or so, it existed only in California. And it has since expanded to some other Western states, but it's still only available in the far Western part of the United States. My friends who live on the East Coast are incredibly jealous of my easy access to In-N-Out Burger. It's as fast food goes, it's fast food, but as fast food goes, it is delicious. And I am embarrassed to say I probably eat it In-N-Out like once a week, but it is good. But even better than the vaunted In-N-Out Burger, the best food in Los Angeles is definitely Mexican food. The majority of, as I mentioned earlier, California shares a border with Mexico. And the majority of the population in Los Angeles is Hispanic and predominantly Mexican. I think it's like 53% of the population of Los Angeles is Hispanic. And so it just makes sense that the Mexican food here is incredibly authentic and incredibly delicious. And in my opinion, I think most people who live here would agree with me. The best Mexican food in Los Angeles is not found at fancy restaurants, but at the various taco trucks that are everywhere around the city. Just when you drive around, you see these trucks selling tacos, and they always park at a specific location so you can go to your favorite. You probably know that people who live in New York City are very proud of their pizza. Like New York City is is famous for its pizza. And everybody who lives in New York has a favorite pizza place, and the merits of various pizza places are the source of a lot of discussion and argument. So I would just say, what pizza is to New York, tacos are to Los Angeles. Everybody has their favorite taco. Everybody has their favorite truck. People argue about it. And my favorite truck is Leo's, which is the one in this picture. Leo's truck is parked on Sunset and Western, which is not too far from where I live. And they are famous for their tacos al pastor, which I never had until I moved to California. Al pastor are tacos with sort of spicy shaved pork served on a soft tortilla with onions, cilantro, and slices of pineapple. And they are incredibly delicious. If you come to LA, get the al pastor. So I'm going to take some of your questions, but I just want to say, living here in Los Angeles, just about every Sunday, I go to the beach in Santa Monica. And that's the Santa Monica Pier, which this is where I go every Sunday. From where I live on the east side of LA, on a Sunday morning, it takes me about 20 minutes to drive there. And as we would say in LA, I take the 5 to the 110 to the 10, if you're wondering how I get there. But, I bring lunch and a little wine, and I spend the entire day just reading quietly on the beach, listening to the sound of the waves, enjoying the sunshine. And, when I'm driving home in, my convertible on the 10 freeway with the top down and, music cranked up on a beautiful sunny day, there are palm trees whipping by on either side. I really feel like I am living the California dream. And the California dream is a real thing. It's not phony. And it's a really specific thing. I living in California for me has given me a feeling of freedom that I haven't felt anywhere else in the United States. And I think that, the lifestyle here, it's just one of the greatest attractions of the state for people who live here. And, when you live in California, you really feel like you are living in paradise. It is a really, really beautiful place to live. And I hope any of you who are interested will get a chance to visit here, because I think you would really enjoy it. It's beautiful. So thank you for listening to that. I'm going to take some questions. Question, in your opinion, what time of year is the most comfortable in California? Well, as we talked about, it's kind of always, it's really never uncomfortable here. In the summer, we can have some days that are very hot. Like sometimes it can be over 100 degrees Fahrenheit here. But it's very dry, it's a desert heat. So it's hot, but it's very rarely oppressively hot. As I said, I grew up in Louisiana. Again, we're going to talk about Louisiana next week. And Louisiana is unbearably hot and humid in the summer. And LA just really isn't. In the winter, it's just, the weather is always nice. And one of the nicest things about living here is really throughout the year, every day, there's about a 20 degree Fahrenheit degree difference in daytime temperatures and nighttime temperatures. So it's always cool at night. But because it's nice and warm during the day, it's cool. It's not cold. But you have to wear a jacket at night, even in this summertime. But I can't say enough about the weather. I really have no complaints whatsoever. We get a thing in May, they call the May gray, where when you wake up in the morning, it's cloudy. And then those clouds burn off, the sun takes care of the clouds. And for the rest of the day, it's beautiful and sunny. But that doesn't happen till like 11 a.m. And so the May gray is, about as bad as it gets. Besides California, which other locations are popular for film and TV productions? I've heard New Jersey is one of them. I would say, so I actually work tangentially in the movie business. I'm a musician, but I have written music for movies and TV shows. And living here in Los Angeles, most of my friends are in the movie or TV business. My friends are actors, writers, cinematographers. And I alluded to this earlier, but, unfortunately, a lot of film production is moving away from California because, I know I gave a very glowing portrayal of California, which I want to do, but living in California is very expensive. It costs a lot more to live here than in other parts of the United States. And so that affects film production. And, for the studios that are trying to control the costs of production, they unfortunately have discovered that they can save a lot of money by not shooting in California. I think the places that are most prevalent outside of California are Georgia and Louisiana. And both of those states give tax incentives to lure production away from California. So if you shoot your movie in that state, they won't tax you, or they'll even give you a tax rebate, so that you not only save money because working in that state is cheaper, you actually make some money because the government of the state is paying you to produce stuff there. And it's really a huge problem here. A lot of people I know here who work in the film industry have a lot of trouble finding work. And especially since COVID, just in the last, it's something like in the last 4 years, production here has declined by 25%. And the example I always use that's just insane, there's a game show here in the United States called The Floor, which is on Fox, which is a major television network here in the United States. And it's hosted by Rob Lowe, who was a big movie and TV star, and all the contestants are American. And that game show is literally shot in Ireland. And all the contestants, who are all American, are flown to Ireland and put up in hotels there to shoot the game show. It's literally less expensive for the studio to fly all these people to a foreign country and put them up there than it would be just to shoot here in Los Angeles. And so that's, a pretty untenable situation. And the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is trying to create the kind of tax incentives that I was talking about earlier that exist in Louisiana and Georgia to kind of keep production here. But it's a big problem. And I'm really sad to say that the movie business within Los Angeles is kind of slowly dying. And streaming has changed everything, and it's in a really tenuous area right now, and I don't know what is going to happen. Question 3: is the Golden Gate Bridge named after the gold rush? Tangentially, yes. That area I was showing on the map between San Francisco and Marin, before the bridge was built, that entrance to San Francisco Bay was named the Golden Gate because of the gold rush. And then when they built the bridge over it, because people just called that area the Golden Gate, the bridge got that name. Is Silicon Valley still a center of tech, or is it overrated? I think it really is still the epicenter, and if we all learned anything during COVID, it's that you can be anywhere and work, especially if you work in the tech industry. But it's really firmly ensconced, and all those companies I was mentioning earlier, Facebook, Apple, Instagram, Twitter, or X now, they are all still there. They're all, within a, 20-mile radius, 50-mile radius of San Francisco. So I think it's pretty firmly ensconced there. Again, much like the film industry, not the companies themselves, but a lot of the billionaires who own those companies have been leaving California because it is so expensive to live here, and the taxes here are much higher than in other states in the United States. So, Elon Musk famously moved to Texas, where the tax rate is much lower. And now the governor of California, there's some legislation pending where there would be a special tax on billionaires, because there are so many billionaires who live in California because of the tech industry. And so California is talking about having a special tax on you if you make above, $400 million or something. So I know that one of the founders of Google left California, moved to Florida, so that he would not have to pay that tax if it in fact happens. It hasn't even been voted on yet. But like I said, California is an expensive place to live, and it's driving away a lot of people and a lot of business. And it's one of the big problems that the state is facing right now. Question 5, does LA have public transport, bus, metro, train? Yes, we have all those things, but people rarely use them. The metro system is fairly new, and it's not like the metro system in Moscow where you can go anywhere. You can pretty much get anywhere around the city on a metro train. There's only sort of a direct line, and it doesn't reach enough places. And just for instance, for me to get to my closest metro station, I would have to drive to get there. So it kind of defeats its own purpose. There are buses, there are commuter trains, but there also is, and this is kind of an ugly thing to say, but I think there is a real kind of class distinction, at least in Los Angeles, where having a car, your own car, is such a prevalent thing, and the city is so designed around automobile ownership and usage. I think a lot of people see using public transport as sort of slumming, sort of beneath them in a class way. And that's kind of a shame. LA is going to have the Olympics in 2028. So the city is furiously trying to improve its mass transit before that event happens. And the mayor of Los Angeles famously said they want to have a car-free Olympics, which just everyone who lives here, you can only kind of laugh at that. It's impossible, especially with 2 years. They can't change things that much in 2 years. So yes, there is mass transit here, but it is very rarely used. I mean, I've never been on a metro train or a bus. I just drive everywhere, and that's a shame. Obviously, public transport is better for the environment. It's cheaper. I wish the system here was better. And when I lived in New York City, like I said, I never drove. I only used public transport. But the system in New York is much better than the system here. And part of that is just LA's so big. It's building a system that could reach everybody. It really almost seems like a virtual impossibility. Question 6, is California the most entrepreneurial state? Are the business opportunities better than in other states for tech or IT projects? So I think the key thing in that question is for tech or IT projects. Yes, and in that industry for sure. I don't know if California is necessarily more entrepreneurial than any other state in the United States. One of the great things about living in the United States is that you can be an entrepreneur anywhere. You can make a business, and if that business is successful, it's successful. You don't have to be in one place or another. And I would say, especially now, with the advent of Zoom and the internet, and you don't need to necessarily be in a place to be an entrepreneur. But this is certainly true of my industry, like here in Hollywood. It's certainly true of the tech industry. Face-to-face communication with other people in your industry and networking, meeting people, and that creates opportunity and exposure and ideas. And even in the age of Zoom, I think that's an incredibly important thing. I read a book about Bell Labs, which was this laboratory on the East Coast, which in the 20th century is where they invented the transistor. They invented the cell phone, like it was the satellite. It was like this incredible research laboratory in the 20th century. And when they built that building, the architect specifically built it so that people had to cross paths. You couldn't just be in your lab but never talk to anybody. And they really believed that it was that kind of meeting and communication that fostered ideas and creativity. And it's interesting because the entire basis of Silicon Valley is this guy, Gerald Shockley, who started at Bell Labs. He, invented the transistor, and then he wanted to make his own company just making transistors, and he moved to California, to Palo Alto, to start his company. And that's really ground zero for Silicon Valley. This is like in the 1950s. But he really is like the first guy that started the whole thing. And I have to believe that he took some of that cooperative ethos from Bell Labs here with him. California has reinvented itself so many times. Gold rush, Hollywood, tech. What do you think the next chapter is? Boy, I have no idea. I mean, I don't think anybody in the time of the gold rush could have predicted that there'd be Facebook. You know what I mean? Like things are moving fast and furious. Maybe AI, maybe robotics. Those seem like some of the industries that are going to be the prevalent industries of the future. And because of their basis in tech, obviously California would be a good place for those industries to develop. But as I was saying earlier, the problem of the expense of living here is definitely going to be a drag on new industries thriving here. And, the good news is I think everybody who lives in the city and the government of the state and the government of the state, everybody's aware that it's a problem. The cost of doing business here is expensive. So hopefully they can fix that. I'm going over time. Sorry. So I'll take one more question. I wish I could talk about California all day. As you obviously have noticed, is wine culture a big thing in California? Do regular people actually visit vineyards and know about wine, or is it more of a niche thing for enthusiasts and tourists? So there's definitely an incredible wine culture here, but it's more in Northern California. So Napa Valley is kind of the famous area of California where all the vineyards are. And I would say that people who live in that part of California would be very savvy about wines. And, I've done wine tours in Napa where you just kind of go from vineyard to vineyard and you can try their wines. And there is definitely a wine culture. But I would say it's more in that part of the state in Northern California. I don't know if maybe you've seen the American movie Sideways. And that's a really great movie about that part of California and two friends who take a trip through there. Another movie I could recommend about wine culture here is a movie called Bottle Shock, which is a true story that in the 1970s, a California wine beat a French wine in this competition to find the best wine in the world for the first time. European winemakers thought that there was no possible way that California could make a wine as good as a European wine. And so it was this incredible earthquake when that happened in the 1970s. And that really was the beginning of wine culture here. So if you go to Northern California, you just see, mile after mile of vineyards. And I would say up there, it's really part of the culture. And that's another thing. If you ever get to come to California, go to Napa and try some wine. It's really fun. All right. So thank you all so much for having me, for joining us this evening. As I think you know, this program is part of the American Center in Moscow's weekly speaker series, which is going to be continuing throughout the whole year of 2026, all 50 states. And so please join us next Wednesday, April 8th. Same time, 8 p.m. Moscow time, for the next event in the series, which will be the state I grew up in, the beautiful state of Louisiana. And I'll just tell you, Louisiana has some of the best food in the United States, some of the best music in the United States. Please be here for that because Louisiana is amazing. So thanks so much.